My friend that we were there with, like, we went back and she was like, did he like try to finger you on the dance floor too? And I was like,
oh my God.
yeah, would literally like be dancing behind us and like would just put his hand down and up. And I was like, what is going on? Like, I just lost my virginity like a month ago. What are you doing to me? Like, I don't know what's happening. I'm like, don't,
Jesus
yeah.
Christ.
Like, it's just crazy.
That is insane.
Yeah. But it's okay. We're alive and well.
Jesus, I don't understand.
I
Like,
know.
what the fuck?
Yeah.
Welcome to Unattainable, soon to be the #1 podcast show in the U.S. Glad to have you with us and hope you'll continue to be a part of our family for the foreseeable future. And if so, please hit that subscribe button. You can watch and listen to our show on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and all the other platforms. We have a super special guest here today.
Hi.
Hi. Jackie,
Yes.
please.
Hello.
Well, I'm just going to say a little bit about you.
Okay, that's fine.
And then you could kind of take it away from there.
Okay.
You're an incredible artist. Your voice is incredible. I love it. You've been singing from a very young age, I know, but I don't know how old you were. Baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. I recently saw a video that you posted from an audition on American Idol, right?
Yeah.
Well, how was that?
That was good. I was 15 on my American Idol journey.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was interesting. Originally, it was kind of like forced. Like I didn't want to do it. My mom was managing me, and she was like, "Why would you not do this?" Like they have like the public cattle calls for people to audition, and then they have talent scouts that are like their job is to find artists that they know are going to be good, and they do a private audition with the producers. So she's like, they just want you to go straight to the producers. Why wouldn't you do it? And I was like, I don't want to go on American Idol. Ended up having the best time ever. I'm so happy I went. And yeah, it was really fun. No sleep, crazy conditions for a 15-year-old to be in, to be honest, in my opinion. But it helped me work under pressure really well, and it really proved like my stage presence and like how I handled myself. So I think it trained me a lot for like as I got older and like actually started taking music seriously.
The one I saw was with a group of people. Is that where you was that like the main audition, or was that the later on?
That was like
round?
my third appearance on the show. So there was like the first audition, which is in front of the judges, and they like give you the golden ticket to
You
go
were
to
by
Hollywood.
yourself
I was
on
by
that one?
myself. I did an a cappella of an original song that I wrote. I actually got bullied so much in high school for it. They would like sing the song back at me, but like obviously as a joke, they'd like make fun of me for it. So I was super insecure about being on American Idol as well for that. But yeah, the audition, that was the first audition. They gave me the golden ticket. I went. They actually used a picture from that day and put it on a billboard too. Like
Oh, wow.
I've never had a billboard before. I was like, my face is on a billboard on Sunset Boulevard. I was like freaking out. So that was pretty cool. And then we go to Hollywood Week, which is like so scary.
Right.
Hollywood Week is the one where you don't really get sleep. So it's like there's 3 rounds of auditions. The first one, you go in a line of 10 and you each get 30 seconds to sing a song, and they tell like certain people to step forward, certain people to step back, and then they say like who gets through to the next round. Group rounds is the one that I posted, and you have to find like a group of 4, and you get like 5 choices of songs. You have to agree on a song, figure out a dance routine, harmonies. Each person needs a lead, and they give you like probably from 10 p.m. that night until our call time 6 a.m. in the morning to figure it all out. And then that's the day that we film. So we just had all night. Like I didn't sleep at all. We all just like fucking hammered through it. I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss. Can I?
All right, it's all good. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Say whatever you want.
But yeah, that was stressful. And then we did like a live show thing that was kind of weird. And I made it to top 48, and then I got cut. I was like, bye.
I mean, you were very young at the time too. So like 15 is pretty young.
Yeah.
Do you think that you've been like hustling in music for a while?
Yeah, definitely.
And I'm sure you get discouraged from time to time.
Yes.
That's just how
100%.
artists are. I mean, that's how I am anyway.
Yeah.
How do you get back to it?
It's funny because the art is the therapy. So if I'm ever like feeling discouraged about it, I can just write a song about it. I feel like if I ever bottle up my emotions, it starts taking over my mind and my thoughts are just constantly thinking about all the problems I have. But as soon as I write something, even if it's not a full song, it could be like a poem or like maybe something I start and don't finish. But as long as I get whatever I need to say out, I feel like this sense of relief. So it's almost like my art heals me even when it's letting me down. If that makes sense.
No, of course, yeah.
So that's nice. Other than that, I love meditating and taking hot baths. Yep,
It's interesting because that form of essentially writing down your thoughts, right? They use that a lot in therapy and like life coaching, where a lot of people suggest journaling. Basically, that's which is essentially the same thing,
right?
And it's interesting you said that because I find myself doing that a lot, whether it's like just writing down my thoughts and, based upon whatever it is that's like bothering me at the time, or if it's a song, I just, whatever comes into my mind, I write them down. And then sometimes I end up looking at it. Even if it's just the written down thoughts, it ends up, becoming a thing where I like take a portion of it and then I put it into like lyrics. Yeah.
100%. I have like a whole notes thing where I'll just write like one-liners. If I'm in the car, I'll like think of a line or something. I'll just write it in my notes. And then I have all these song ideas where they're not full songs or anything, but it could be a great one lyric. If I like can't think of a line in a song, I like look through my song ideas and I'm like, ooh, or it could be like the topic for a brand new project or something like that. So yeah. I love doing that.
I feel like a lot of people think that when they listen to like all these songs, because there's a lot of music out there, a lot of artists.
Yeah, especially now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you listen to it, I think a lot of people think that these things just come about of like just creation out of a snap.
Yeah.
No. Where in reality it's so different.
It's so different. Also, people love asking artists like a writing process, and for me, like every time it's different. I'm not like, oh well, my process is like I sit on the guitar and then I think of the chords and then I do that. There's not like a step by step for me. I feel like sometimes it takes like a month to finish a song. Sometimes it takes like 30 minutes and it just comes out of me and I'm like, I don't know how the fuck I just wrote that. But then depending if you're collaborating with people, like it's just so different all the time. But that's like what makes it so cool, you know?
Do you ever struggle with the belief that you're good enough?
So this is something that I actually had to teach myself a lot. And like this is not just career related. I feel like it's personal life too, like your self-worth and stuff like that as far as relationships and everything. But anytime I don't feel like I'm good enough, I remind myself that I'm one of like 8 billion people on this planet, and that even if I was like Ariana Grande or Taylor Swift or like top like pop star level, like there's still a million other people doing that as well. Like you'll never fully be satisfied. You'll never be the best. I kind of let go of this because I started so young doing like music and acting and stuff. I would compare myself to like Miley Cyrus, Demi Lovato. I'm like, well, they were famous at 13. They booked their Disney Channel show. So I was 16 years old being like, I didn't make it. I lost my shot. And everyone would be like, you're 16. Like, stop saying that. And I had to get that out of my head. Like, everyone's journey is their own. And I had to stop just comparison is the worst. Like, that's where it goes downhill. Like, everyone has their own thing to offer to the world. And then I started viewing success differently. I think I had to redefine it for myself. Because success in my head was like, looking at Miley Cyrus or Taylor Swift or Ariana Grande, all these people, and like to me that was success. And now to me success is like if I touch people with my lyrics, if I help somebody through something, if I inspire somebody. I would like to be like financially sustained or financially stable from my art. That would be successful. But like now I'm not focused on being the biggest in the world. I feel like that's like my ego wanting all that attention, instead of like the reason I started doing music in the first place. So I also try to keep myself in check with that as far as like what are my intentions and my motives? Like why do I want this fame? You know what I mean? So I kind of stopped. That helped me a lot just with my self-worth feeling like I was good enough type thing. I don't know. I feel like that's all kind of related in my
Sure.
how I think about it.
Yeah, of course. Who helps you through all this? Is it just like you going, like reading books and stuff like that, or?
Yeah, so I guess it was partially how I was raised. I always had this kind of like mentality where I would just kind of take a step back and look at things more objectively. And then I read The Untethered Soul actually like 2 months ago. I don't know if you've read it, but it's a great book, and it basically says like your thoughts are not you. Like when you hear the voices in your head talking, like you're listening to something. So that means that the voices are talking, but who's listening to the voice? So it separates you from your thoughts. So it stopped being like, oh, I have anxiety. It's like, I don't have anxiety. I feel anxious. So like, why am I giving anxiety power? Like, I am not the anxiety. That's just a feeling that I'm having right now. And most of the time, anxiety is just overthinking things and letting your thoughts control all of your emotions and stuff like that when you like buy into it. So I just say, okay, like I acknowledge that these thoughts are happening. I'm going to move on. It's not affecting me right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I check myself and just try to live in the present moment. That's from like reading books recently in the last like year. But other than that, I kind of just always had this outlook. I don't know. It's weird. My mom is like very much like that.
Self-aware.
Yeah, very self-aware. That's what I guess people would say a lot is you're very self-aware. But I just want to be better and like always want to be the best version of myself. So I always keep myself in check before I start judging other people. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Interesting. How old are you now?
21.
Okay.
This year, 21. I had a COVID 21 birthday. Woo. So fun. I did shrooms. I was like, I can't go to a club, so I'm just going to walk around the neighborhood and
That's funny. Well,
see cool things.
you're very very mature in a place that you are now for your age.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I think self-awareness is incredibly important.
Yeah.
But there are a couple of things that you touched on, which is like, look at myself before I start judging people, which is I think what's really bringing down society now is the lack of not only self-awareness but self-judgment.
Yeah.
You're
so quick, or not you, but people are so quick to point the finger before they want to point it at themselves. Also, I talked a lot with my friend Jezere, who is like very also on this same stuff, and he said, think about it this way too. Every single person is the same. He's like, people's realities are different. And then I read this in the 4 Agreements as well. Your realities are different, right? So like maybe you have different goals and aspirations than I do. So like your day-to-day life and like the activities you do and like your experiences are going to be different from mine. But at the end of the day, like you're a human, I'm a human. We need food to eat. We need water. Like we're the same creature, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And like, even though people have different realities, we're all exactly the same. Like if I don't know how to describe it, I just feel like we're all one. You talk about like the one consciousness. I just feel like we're all a part of this one thing. And like most of the time I noticed if I was judging people, it was because I was insecure about something. So like if I'm on Instagram looking at these Instagram models who have these bodies that are like fucking amazing and I want them, I'm like, there's no way those are real. I like zoom in to see like, are they face tuning their bodies? Like what's going on? Because I'm comparing. But in my head, I'm like, I think I'm only looking at that because I face-tune my body and because I wish it looked like that. And the only reason I'm judging it is because I wish I had it or I'm insecure about something. And then I just realized I'm just judging myself. I don't know. I just started viewing everybody as me kind of and like a different version of me. And it helped me empathize with people more and just realize that like it's not that serious. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
I think a lot more people should think that way. A lot of the times, what creates so much friction is exactly what you said. People pointing fingers and looking at other people and going, "Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that?" But in reality, if they were in their shoes, mm-hmm. you never know what they would do.
Totally. And then also, I think being open-minded is so important because I'm an Aries. I'm very stubborn. I'm very like opinionated and outspoken. So I definitely have my opinions about things. But something that I try to do is, even if I don't agree with the person, I try to see where they're coming from, because there's no way every person in the world would agree on something. You know what I mean? That's like not how it works. That's just unrealistic. So like you need to be able to appreciate that person without, just because you don't agree. I feel like the open-mindedness and seeing the other person's side is super important, and a lot of people are like unable to do that. They're so like caught up in their own ideas of how things work, and I'm like, really, like, you see things from your perspective because your life experiences that led you to this day are like, it's kind of like a filter putting over your eyes, right? Like you see life through your filter, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like if you have a certain trauma, like every time you see that thing, it's going to trigger you. It's not going to trigger me. So it's like, I don't know. We just need to remember that we're all seeing things and projecting our own ideas of how things are going onto the situation. You can have the same conversation with someone and be getting two different things from it.
Yeah.
So it's like just being able to see the other person's side and getting
Perspective
out of
is
your
reality
world.
these days, you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is problematic, because if unless you start to allow yourself to see other people's perspective,
And it's
then,
scary sometimes.
yeah, you can never have a conversation with someone and accept them for who they are.
Exactly. Imagine having an argument with every person that didn't agree with you. Like,
Right.
that would be awful.
Which happens a lot.
It does. It does.
You
I know
know?
some people who are like that, and they're like, why can't I have friends? And I'm like, well, maybe check your behavior just a little bit. Like, meet halfway, you know?
Yeah. That's also another crazy thing, is that I think people start to question other people, where in reality, if we start to question ourselves first and really just look at ourselves in the mirror and be like, okay, what can I do better, as opposed to what everybody else can do,
Yeah.
you know, to better us, because that's not how it works.
Right. I think also quarantine actually really helped me like dig into that, because you really had to like sit by yourself with nobody else around. And like it's easy when you're around a lot of people, like it's human instinct, you like pick up on their personality traits kind of. So like depending on who you're hanging out with, like you're gonna change a little bit. But when people just sit with themselves, like it's just you, like you have to be your own best friend, you know? And if you don't like the person you're sitting with, like that's gonna be awful for you. Like you're gonna have a really bad quarantine. Like
Yeah.
it's gonna be pretty sucky. But I think, yeah, also especially in LA, it's very like on the go. There's always a place to go, people to be with, and I feel like people are always surrounded by others and trying to like carry their brand with them, like make sure that they're being perceived how they want to be perceived, and they're just focused on so many things. They're not actually just being themselves, like being free.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you're like trapping yourself in that.
Well, yeah, there's nothing
You know?
worse than being afraid of your own thoughts.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
I had a friend of mine who she just couldn't sit alone. She was constantly running around trying to do something, you know. And
I used to be like that.
And the moment there was
sucks.
nothing to do for her, she'd start freak out,
Anxiety.
get anxious. Yeah.
It's because like all those thoughts she's not dealing with are all flooding every time she has a moment of peace. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I agree. I used to be like that though, and it was so depressing. Like I would get really depressed and I would just cry all day. Like if I didn't have somebody to hang out with, I would wake up in the morning and I would start going through my contacts, and I would text like 7 people to see what they were doing that day to make sure I had at least one plan of like someone to be with. Like it was bad. Like this is when I was like 18, and like, yeah, I like went through my first breakup and I couldn't be without him, and it was like a whole thing, and I was just so dependent on other people making me happy, when it's like, yeah, I don't know. It's just, you need to make yourself happy. I know it's cliche, but like you do.
But it's true.
It's true.
Because a lot of people do suffer from that, you know, inability to be by themselves and be satisfied by themselves.
Be satisfied. That's the key.
And I think that's it becomes so frustrating when you can't do it, that you start to rely on whether it's other people or substances to get you through the day.
Right.
Because that's all you want to get through, is
That's all you
just the
want.
day, you know?
My mom's told me actually the other day, because I told her, I was like, I'm having separation anxiety, like from this person. And she was like, well, and I used to have really bad separation anxiety from my mom. I'm like, it feels like you, like when I was a little kid, I like couldn't go on sleepovers. I'd like call her in the middle of the night crying, like, I need to come home. I slept in her bed till I was 12.
Wow.
But yeah, it was kind of bad. But I called her and I was like, how do I, like, what is this feeling? Like, I don't know why I have separation anxiety. And she goes, well, you're not missing, well, you probably are missing the person, but it's more when you miss somebody or a thing, like a substance, you don't miss the thing, you miss how it makes you feel. It gives you a feeling that you're like, ooh, I want that again. I want that again. I want that again. So you don't, and you associate them or that thing with that feeling. And you're like, okay, A plus B equals C, whatever it is. So then you keep going back to it. But if you can identify what it is you like so much about that, you can curate that feeling for yourself. And then it's like you can just find other ways to make yourself feel that way without being reliant on another thing, which is why I was trying to be sober on New Year's and like stop with the weed just a little bit, which I didn't do a tolerance break with the weed. It's like really hard for me to stop smoking weed. I don't know why.
Well,
but
the key is to break a habit by creating another habit to replace it with.
Okay, that's good.
And so
like water.
There is no, well, whatever it is, but there's nothing that you can do to break a habit that you have created for such a long time unless you replace it with another one.
Right. That makes sense.
Whether it's, so when you talk about separation anxiety, right? Something was happening at the time that gave you that feeling of whatever it was. So that person was like giving you this feeling, but then that connection was what you had, right?
Right.
Now that's gone. There's an emptiness, and that needs to be replaced by not just you sitting there, because that's not a habit.
Yeah. Right.
So you have to create another habit to replace it with.
Yeah, that makes you feel that same like passion or whatever it is. Like
exactly.
Yeah. True. And then I set up my recording studio and the rest is history.
It makes a massive difference. I mean, it's crazy because I think people think to themselves that there's nothing they can do with their life, you know, when things are bad or hard or, you know, whatever the case is. But especially now we have so much access to everything so easily,
right?
You know, that whether it's learning, I mean, during this time I've thought about, you know, multiple projects that I've been working on and I always wanted to do. And I think quarantine was like the time that I ended up, you know, having the ability to do it, because before that I didn't have time.
Right. Yeah, same. I was like working 2 jobs before, and now they were restaurant jobs. Now I'm like, well, I could just be an artist full time, go to the studio, work out, make clothes. I'm like, do whatever.
Yeah. But I think when people get thrown into it, because it's easy to complain about not having something, thinking that you'll never get it.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
I like how you said that.
Yeah.
I like how you phrased that.
But then once you do actually have the ability to achieve it, you're like, oh,
I can.
Do I have to like do all the work now?
Yeah.
You know, it becomes real.
It's way easier to complain about something than to make it work.
Right.
Like that's definitely the case. Yeah, I realize that too. I'm like, wow, just everyone loves to complain and complain and complain instead of just like look at what they do have. I don't know. I started doing this thing that's super simple, but I would wake up every day when I wake up, because I meditate sometimes. Sometimes I'm just not in the mood to just sit there in silence. So I try, if I'm not in the mood to meditate, I'll wake up and I'll just say 3 things that I'm grateful for, which like sounds very simple, but most of the time when I do it, I try to find things that annoy me and try to find the gratitude in them, or something that I'm like not liking. I'll try to find the gratitude in it. So
that's a good one.
Yeah, it tries to like force you to be grateful for things, even if that you take for granted within. Because even things that are challenging, like you wouldn't experience joy if there wasn't the opposite end of it. So like if you're not going through something shitty, you're like you wouldn't know the difference between what makes you happy and not.
There's a positive in everything. There is a positive in everything.
Always find it.
You
just gotta look.
It's literally looking at it differently, changing your perspective and looking at it as if that thing is giving you something as opposed to taking away something from you.
100%.
And that's you know, a lot of the few of the things that you've mentioned, and you keep saying these are like cliche or simple things, but the cliche and simple things work.
Right.
And a lot of people miss that fact.
Yeah.
You know, they think of it as, I was talking to someone, she said, I don't what did she say? She was like, I don't like these like weird things that like people tell you to do. And all I was thinking to myself was, these are things that have been proven to work for people.
Right.
You know, who struggle from anxiety, who struggle from
There's a reason.
Stress, you know?
Yeah.
Like they actually
it
take
almost
place.
seems too simple. Because, like, I did go through a year where I was, like, really, really depressed, but I didn't really tell people because I'm so, like, bubbly and whatever. Like, I'd be fine when I was around people, and at home I'd be, like, a wreck. But it just almost seems too easy. They're like, oh, well, just love yourself. And you're like, well, what the fuck does that mean? Like, love myself. Like, okay, how? Like, and there's not a step by step. But then I realized loving myself is not, like, doing face masks and, like, going shopping and like splurging on myself. That is a form of self-love, I guess, but I feel like self-love is more like being honest with yourself about like your rights and your wrongs and just constantly working to be better. And it's loving yourself isn't always feel happy, but it's benefiting you for the long run, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just try to look at the bigger picture because sometimes you can go through something like really traumatic or shitty and you don't know why it's happening to you. And it's so easy to see all the negatives, but like maybe 5 years from then, you'll be like, oh, that's why I went through that. And then it makes sense later on. And you don't even, it's not always an immediate give and take, but eventually like everything leads you to where you need to be. I just believe in that. Because if you don't believe in that, then like really you probably, I don't know, there's like no hope. If you don't look at the world like that, then you could just look at it as like, oh, what, you live and you die. And it's like, okay, well, yeah. Or you could make the most of your experience here, you know? So.
Yeah, I mean, believing is everything.
Right.
Without it, we've got nothing. You
Faith
know?
is important.
It's interesting because when I've been around a couple of people who are like very pessimistic, and I'm an optimist, just like in every shape or form. Like I look at things and I think to myself, there's like no way for me to fail, because one belief that I have is if somebody else has done it, then you can do it for sure, because then why not, right?
I like that a lot.
And secondly, I've got no excuses. I literally don't. You know, some people do, factually. Right. I don't. I've got no excuses. And so believing in the negative or assuming that always something bad is going to happen, or that I'm just incapable of something, you know, it's just
your thoughts are your reality.
It brings you that reality.
Right.
You know, it creates that reality for you. Whereas the opposite is also true. You know, believing that you can do something, 100%. Knowing that you're capable of something.
Right.
You know, one of my exes would constantly say, I can't do this. I can't do that.
You can't or you won't.
Like literally just like,
yeah.
I can't. And I like get so upset because I tell her, I'd be like, you got to stop saying I can't. Like just take that, take all the negative words out of your vocabulary.
Throw them away.
It's crazy the shift that happens in a person's mind when you do that.
It's crazy.
Even to this day now, when I like think of something or try to, I mean, I'm positive as it is, but then when I try to say something, mm-hmm. I'm constantly trying to rephrase my words into a positive.
Literally changing one word out of a sentence will make the difference.
Yeah.
Like even with the thing that I was saying earlier where I was like, I'm not anxious. It's not saying I'm anxious, saying I feel anxiety. Like I feel, or my thoughts are racing right now. Like you can say it in a bunch of different ways that's not labeling yourself as that thing, because then your brain is like, I'm anxious, and then you're anxious all the time. And it's like, okay. Well, every time I would say it, I'm like, I'm just reinforcing it again and again. Also, I read in this book, The Untethered Soul, they say your brain naturally, because it has so much power, we only unlock like 5% of it, right? Or like something like that. Very small percentage of it. And it's so powerful. Your brain basically is constantly on a mission. So like whatever mission you give it, that's what it's going to be like overanalyzing. So you can either, going back to finding the gratitude in the things I don't really like, by doing that, saying 3 things like that in the morning, every morning, it sets the tone for my day. So then my brain is now on a mission to find all of the good things that are happening to me in the day, instead of on a mission of like finding all the bad things. Because I feel like when you're in that habit, that's what your brain just highlights. It like looks at all the bad things. And when you start your day, like, not thinking about any baggage from the day before, from the week before, any argument you had, like, in the past. New day, start over. It just helps, like, set the tone completely. Then I feel like my brain is always, like, finding good things that makes it happy instead of finding bad things that, like, perpetuates the sadness.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. It's literally the same as programming. The programming your mind is the same as programming like a computer.
Yeah.
You know, it's just
and it's hard.
Repeating. It's crazy.
You have to catch yourself. Like, get the rubber band and flick it on your wrist or something.
When I was a kid in elementary school, we had this, and I don't know if you guys did that, but like back in Iran, they would give us, our homework was to like repeat if we wrote an essay and like we spelled like the words wrong,
you'd have to write it over and over
write
and over
it
again.
over and over again.
Yeah,
so
like
you
in The
learn it.
Simpsons when he's writing the same word on the chalkboard.
Right.
Over and over.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Cool. Yeah. Shout out Bart.
What's crazy is that exercise to this day, I still do it on things that I want to accomplish. You know?
Yeah. Put it out there.
Did you see Shawn Mendes's Netflix?
His documentary, the Wonder one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you
I
see
just
that?
watched it actually like 2 weeks ago.
So he pulled out the notebook that he had written all these things that he like was trying to accomplilich and like manifest.
Yeah.
It was like a manifestation book basically. And he was writing down like, I'm going to be, I'm going to have like the #1 record like over and over.
Dope.
Just like write it down. You know?
Yeah. Yep. I have a little manifestation journal.
Yeah,
like,
these are such like cheesy things.
Yeah.
But if you want to become successful in life, you got to do these things. Like it works, visualizing.
And then you'll get addicted to it because it just feels good. It's like you get into a good routine and it like feels nice to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like a technique that I use is I have a notebook next to my bed where I write down the goals that I have. So like it's like big picture goals. These are the things that I want to achieve, and then I have like to-do lists based upon like whatever it is that I have to accomplish, the smaller steps.
Yeah, we're like the same.
And
Go off.
my first thought when I was trying to do it was I thought to myself, I was like, oh, how can I make this? Because somebody said something to me where she said when you wake up, are you happy? I was working with one of my life coaches, and I said, she said, what do you think about when you wake up? And for a moment, I was like, well, at that very moment when I wake up, I don't know if I particularly think about anything.
I think about weed.
Good one.
Continue.
Before it used to be different. Like after my latest relationship ended, for a while, whenever I woke up in the morning, I would constantly think about her. Just I wake up, the first thing I would think about was her. And it was like bothering me because after a year, you start to think to yourself, okay, what the hell is wrong with you? Like,
right.
You got to stop thinking about this girl.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, what can I do to like replace the thought? Like,
right.
What can I do? So I wake up in the morning, I'm happy, as opposed to like wake up in the morning and the first thing I'm thinking of myself is like her and like
sadness.
Sadness is what is
her.
like exactly.
Yeah.
What's associated with that. And so I wake up. So as soon as she asked me that, I said, interesting. Like I have to like change that. So essentially the goal was now create a new habit, which I mentioned earlier. So that now the new habit was wake up. The first thing you do is open a book. This notebook that you've written for yourself. Right. And what you're looking at is all these goals that you're supposed to achieve.
Yeah, that's great.
And so my mind becomes programmed with essentially the future that I'm creating for myself.
Totally.
And the crazy part that a lot of people miss is the fact that these things actually do happen.
Right.
In reality, what you manifest becomes reality.
Right.
And I think there's no way to fail.
Yeah.
you know, unless you get hit by a bus and die the next day.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I just watched Soul, that movie, Soul.
I haven't seen it.
Oh my God. Okay, well it was very triggering. It was basically like, I honestly don't really want to spoil it, but like the main thing is like this guy is just like this piano teacher, but he was always so good, but he never made it. Everyone told him no, 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 no his whole life. Then he finally gets an opportunity and he dies, and his soul is like trying to figure out how to get back to Earth. He's like, no, I need to play this show. Like, I finally got my big break, and I was like, oh my God, if this happens to me, I'm gonna.
That's funny. I'm gonna watch that.
Like, oh no, it was very triggering. But no, it was a great movie. It was one of those movies I wish I didn't see so I could watch it for the first time again. It was that first time feeling so good.
That's funny. That's a good one.
Yeah, but no, we were talking about something else.
You mentioned I was talking about. You said I was talking about how I have this notebook that I write my goals in.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. You mentioned something about not wanting to drink on New Year's.
Oh, yeah.
Did you end up drinking?
So I had a glass of rosé at like 7 p.m. And that was it. I was like, I'll have a glass with my new roommate. I just moved into a new house in the Hollywood Hills, so I'm like very excited. And then I was just like, I'll cheers, because I had been on an alcohol cleanse for 2 months. My exceptions were
that to me.
Thanksgiving and Christmas. I was like, I'll have some wine. Wine was it. I haven't had hard alcohol, nothing. So I had a glass of rosé, didn't feel anything, and then I didn't smoke all day that day. I just wanted to go into the new year sober. I wanted to be sober at midnight, so that, because I feel like since I was like 16, 17, every New Year's I've just gotten fucked up, or I've like done drugs or like done something for a New Year's, woo. But I'm just like, okay, so you make these New Year's resolutions and then you wake up hungover and you don't do any of them. And then honestly, like I feel like the New Year's Eve is like a celebration of the last year and like welcoming the new year in. But I don't know. I didn't want to go to a party and get COVID. Like, this isn't really, like, I didn't want to celebrate our pandemic. You know what I mean? Sure. I had a lot of, like, personal goals that I accomplished, which was cool, but I'm not, like, trying to, like, party and just, I don't know. I guess I'm in a different headspace. I just wanted to challenge myself and, like, mix it up because no one else is staying sober.
So is that what the goal is, not to drink? Are you trying to become sober?
I don't, well, I'm not, because I'm a firm believer in everything in moderation. Okay. For me, it was mainly the weed more than the alcohol. Like, I really wanted to not smoke, but whenever I drink, I want to smoke. And yeah, I just wanted to stop. Weed doesn't even hold me back or really hurt my life in any way necessarily, but I just am relying on it. Like, I wake up in the morning, that's the first thing I want to do, and I'm like smoking all day until I go to sleep. And I'm like, okay, well, am I able to just not do that? Because you don't get withdrawals from weed, but the action of it is very addictive. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to challenge myself and be like, are you able to not do this? And I didn't. I didn't smoke all day. And the next day I did, but I didn't do it all day. And I was like, okay, this is cool. And now since the new year, I don't, well, today was a podcast. I was like, let me just whatever. But other than today, I haven't smoked like during the days. I smoke at night to help me go to bed and like give me an appetite for dinner a little bit. And then, yeah, that's it. So I'm just mixing it up. I don't know.
Interesting. You've done other drugs before or no?
Yeah. Yeah, you
said something about mushrooms.
Yeah, I did mushrooms on my birthday because I was like, I've had a fake ID, so like going and buying alcohol is not really like, oh, right. I'm 21. I would have loved to get into a club because I always got rejected from those when I was underage. But Warwick specifically, because I could look the guy in the eye who's rejected me like with 5 different fakes. I could look at him. I don't know what his name is, but I really just wanted to look him in the eye and be like, it's my birthday, let me in, because he knows me at this point. He's like, funny. Leave. Like, why are you trying again? Yeah, I love that guy.
That's hilarious.
So funny. Yeah, that was my bucket list, was Warwick. Other than that, I was like, let me just have more of like, I'm going to meditate and be with like 2 people that I really trust and love and just have like a great day. And that was it. But yeah.
So did you trip or like what happened?
Yeah, I tripped. Nothing really crazy. We walked to this view like in the hills and went to this bench, and like that's kind of when it started kicking in. And then I don't really know what we did. I feel like on shrooms, I'm always like in a loop. It's fun, but I'm just like don't really know what's happening, but it's just fun. Like everything makes sense, but we're not really doing anything. But I was in nature, so like I saw everything breathing and like the colors were really nice. I saw the sunset, and then we went back to my place and we like cooked dinner, and like that was fun on shrooms. And Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of simple, but
Interesting.
yeah.
I've been doing some research on microdosing. A lot of people in NorCal do it, especially in the tech industry.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if you know this or not. I've never done any drugs. Never smoked. Never.
Wait, really?
Never drank alcohol. Yeah.
Oh my God. Wait,
Yeah,
that's
you
cool.
didn't know that,
I
yeah.
didn't know that.
Um,
I love that for you.
and so
Dang.
microdosing. I started hearing about it, and I start to hear about like how it helps like performance and stuff like that. Now, I have this belief system that I think our bodies, if you use something that's a substance, I think the our body's reaction to the substance becomes in a way to adapt to it. And so later on, we start to feel like we need that substance in
Because
order
we've
to get the
altered
same
our body
feeling.
to adapt to it.
Exactly.
That totally makes sense.
I have this theory that a lot of, especially in your generation, and so like Gen Z and Gen X, basically,
Yeah, Gen Z's, woo.
the anxiety and stress partially comes from all the
Substance
substances
abuse.
that you guys have like used
I
over
agree.
time.
I agree.
And so I feel like, and especially when it comes to alcohol, is like a very good example of it because, or like alcohol or like coffee.
I was going to
stuff
say
like
caffeine and alcohol actually cause a lot more anxiety than people would think. I mean, caffeine, obviously, it makes you like jittery and stuff. So that's,
Right.
But alcohol really does too. Like my friend had like severe anxiety in the last few months and she cut out alcohol and caffeine because every time she would drink them, she would get severe anxiety attacks, and she stopped and it helped a lot. She had to do a lot of mental work as well, but like her anxiety is almost gone, and like now she can have like she'll have tea or something, or like she'll have some wine, but she won't like be drinking every single night because she knows like how it affects her now, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's everybody. It affects your like neurosystem and everything.
Yeah, especially like Juul, like nicotine,
The nicotine,
like stuff like that.
oh my God, yeah.
It's just crazy.
Yeah.
Where, at first when people use it, and especially like when you're younger, it's a lot of like peer pressure. You want to be
100%.
cool. You want to act like all the other people that are like cool in your eyes, and you're like, oh well, they're doing it. Maybe I should
Right.
be doing it too. Sort of like fit into the society. And then once you start to do it, your body changes, your brain changes.
It does.
And the stress and anxiety that comes, then all of a sudden you're like, why am I feeling like this? And then in order to suppress that, you keep
doing
using
the
all this
substances.
stuff.
Yeah, I guess I'm just going to be like fully transparent. But when I went through like a little Xanax stage, I noticed it gave me more anxiety because it's a tranquilizer for your physical anxiety symptoms. But then when you get anxiety again, it's addictive because your brain is like, oh, Xanax helps get rid of my anxiety. But the thing with Xanax, because I went to like an actual like doctor and we were talking about it. Yes, thank you, psychiatrist. And she told me, I'm going to give you Boosterone, which is like a fake Xanax. And basically, it's a fake Xanax because it takes rid of all of the physical symptoms if you're having an anxiety attack, like the heart palpitations and the sweaty palms and all that stuff. But it actually balances the serotonin levels in your brain. So it's not just a tranquilizer that's getting rid of the physical effects and not actually treating the anxiety. Like this med is treating the anxiety. Xanax doesn't treat anything. It just relieves you of the symptoms. So people get addicted to it that way. But then I noticed too, when I would take Xanax, like the next day, my anxiety would be worse. I don't know why, but like it's almost like taking something that's supposed to treat your anxiety, like made it worse when I wasn't on it.
Yeah.
I was just like, this is just a mentality thing. Like I need to figure this out,
Yeah, it's interesting because the subject is so tricky. With some people who actually have certain brain
chemical imbalances.
Chemical imbalances, yes.
Yeah.
And for some people it is a mental thing. You know, for
It
some
is.
people it is
It's like a lack
a
of
portion of it is like you can control. You know, you could sort of maybe you have those chemical imbalances, but then you will be able to, by practice and just like working on certain things, make it work.
But some people are just born
a certain way,
yeah,
you know,
you can't
so
help
you
that.
need that to like function.
Right.
But putting that group aside, where
Right.
it's just a lot more severe.
Yeah, I think I'm talking less clinically, like clinical anxiety, clinical depression, stuff like that. More like as you get older, you've gotten it as you get older, kind of from like experiences, but you weren't born with it. You know what I'm saying? If you're not born with it and it's something that has just gotten out of your control type thing, I think it's
because they also, I can't really accept that the vast majority of Gen Z and Gen X has chemical imbalances that
agree
they
with
were
that.
born with. I mean,
every
that just
person
makes
has
no
it.
sense.
Yeah, it's also technology too.
For sure.
I think
absolutely.
technology is
social
also
media
like,
is like
yeah.
crazy. I went off of Instagram. I disabled my account beginning of 2020, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna see like what's gonna happen. Like I just don't want to be on here because I had this thing where it had become like an addiction. I mean, there's nothing else to call it.
Yeah, it's the first thing my thumb presses on, even if I'm not going on my phone for Instagram.
It's crazy.
That's the first app that's open. I'm like, I was trying to make a phone call. Like, why did my thumb click Instagram?
It is crazy.
I
I'd grab my phone every 5 minutes, click on it,
and put it down.
for no reason. I've got no notifications. There's nothing. I click on it,
Yeah,
go on
I just
there,
wanna
look,
make
and then
sure.
go to the discover page to the search and just scroll and like look at people. And then 10 minutes later, I go, why am I doing this?
Yeah, why am I doing this?
Like, what am I doing right now? Put it back
So
down.
stupid.
And then 20 minutes later, pick it back up again. Same thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
It just, you start to think to yourself, what's wrong with you?
You know what helped me actually stop doing that as a little bit is that I don't remember what it's called. The Social Dilemma. It's on
that's
Netflix.
the show, yeah.
Yeah, and they were saying like on your phone screen, like I don't know, just how they shot it made me creeped out to the point where I try not to do it anymore. But they're like, they can literally see you through your camera, so they know like how long you stop on a post.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And like all those little things. I didn't know all. Well, I mean, I knew all of that, but just when they tell you the specific details, like they can track this, and this, I'm like, ooh, I'm not trying to be on that app for more than 2 minutes, you know. And like now all this stuff is coming out where Instagram is like spyware or something, and I'm like, well, we all knew it was kind of messed up, but
Well, but that's the thing. I think it's interesting because that subject.
what else are we supposed to do though? Just not have technology?
Well, that's the thing. Like we know,
Yeah.
like it's sort of like subconsciously, you know, all these things are happening. Like when you're on your phone, they ask you permission to like accept this, right?
Yeah, like allow your location, allow your camera,
and then you've got like the terms and conditions, right? And people don't read it.
right.
The crazy thing is, I've talked to people who are like, why are they doing all this stuff? And I'm like, what do you mean, why are they doing all this stuff? They're doing it because that's how technology works, right?
Right.
Now, if you've got something to hide, which I highly doubt you do,
Yeah.
unless you're like a
Serial killer or something.
in cartel or like, you know what I mean? Like, then
Yeah,
you've
that's
got
true.
nothing to hide, then what are they taking from you, really? Nothing.
Yeah.
You know, it's just information and data.
Yeah, plus they don't give you an option to like not accept the agreements. It's like you either accept the terms and agreements and like get the app,
Yeah,
or
like,
you
doesn't
don't
work.
get the, or it doesn't work. So then people are like, well, there's no point reading it because it's like you have to sign it anyways, whether
Right.
you agree with it or not.
Right, exactly. So
is crazy.
now the argument comes where, okay, so now you're accepting this. You're accepting all this
Willfully.
stuff. But
Yeah.
then, you know, you can't, I don't think as society we're allowed to complain about things that we accept.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, you can't
agree.
be like, okay, I want to use this thing, but then I want to be on my terms of how I want it to work.
Right.
You know, which even to this end, they still are giving a lot of options, like different areas where if you don't want your camera to be like working, you could disable that
say
on your
no.
phone, you know.
100%.
Like there's a permission section you could go to, you could disable like all these things that you're uncomfortable with,
Right.
you know, with the apps
I only
taking.
allow my location if I'm like using the app, and if it's an app that requires my location, like
Right.
Waze or like my
Like
GPS,
Google Maps or
Google,
whatever.
yeah, exactly. Then it's like obviously I want it to know my location, but I don't have it set. So if I'm not using the app, it can't just constantly be tracking me. Although they can track your phone anyways.
Yeah, but
you know.
but then again, it goes back to like, what are they going to track it for, and what are they going to use it for?
Yeah.
You know
What?
I
Oh my
mean?
God! I'm filming a podcast here. Come
Yeah.
get me.
And in a way, a lot of this stuff is like, if we look at our daily lives of like how we function and what it is that we do, right? We want our lives to become easier. We want
Right.
this device to like help us do things
Totally.
faster and like easier. In order for them to be able to make that happen, they need data.
Right.
And that data has to come from
'Cause
somewhere.
it's all
Where's it
from
going to come
It's
from?
through an AI. It's like, how is
Yeah.
it supposed to learn how to do anything? It can't be intelligent if it doesn't have anything to learn.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy. Like, as soon as you talk, it's like my mom would say this. She'd be like, as soon as I talk about like this thing, it starts to like pop up on my thing, on my like search box.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
That's great.
yeah, because it's like it's like hearing what you're saying, and
Right.
then it like automatically, that's what it does. And she goes, well, I don't want that to happen. I'm like,
Well, sorry.
Okay, well, but then you're not gonna get the information you want.
It's so funny. Yeah, everyone's so
So
picky.
it's just it's
Goes
interesting.
back to the complaining thing. We can have everything at our fingertips and still find something to complain about.
Right.
Which
Exactly.
there's a boundary, I guess, on like some of it. But again, like you're agreeing to it. So if you're agreeing to it, then don't be upset about something that you knew was happening. Anyways. Yeah. And you can't really control it. So whatever.
How do you? I feel like you're so self-aware that, or you're like becoming more self-aware and like constantly trying to like learn about yourself.
Yeah.
Um.
It's fun.
But here's the interesting question though. Does that affect your dating life in any way?
Ah, interesting. Honestly, it's like kind of slimmed it down. Well, okay, so dating life is very interesting for me in LA because I feel like I was raised in a culture where like unless it's like a really cool guy or like I don't know, they're just one out of a dozen. They're just trying to fuck. They're not trying to like take you out or anything like that, in my opinion. So I used to like do that a lot. I just don't know if that's considered dating. Like I feel like here there's like the talking phase and then dating and then boyfriend and girl. There's like so many different labels to choose from that it was always hard for me to date anyways. And I've had like 2 relationships. That's like about it. And I don't know, just now I think the only way it's affected my dating relationship, I guess, is that I'm just not like willfully hooking up with anybody because I value myself more. And I used to view it as like women should enjoy sex the same way men should. So I would just like act how I wanted to and be like, I'm not being objectified if I'm the one doing it type thing. And I was like, I'm just a sexual person. Like, it's fine. But now I'm just like, no, not just anybody can have me type thing. You know what I mean? And I just love myself more than any other person's. Not in a narcissistic way, like,
sure,
ooh, I'm
of
the
course.
best. But just like, I just view any person coming into my life as an addition. So now, like, if they leave, they're not taking a piece of me with them. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a fully functioning person. I'm happy with my life, how it is. So if I get a cool relationship, like, they're an addition to an already cool life. They're not, like, make or breaking me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just kind of adapted that, and it's, like, limited the amount of people that I see. Also, it's COVID. But I think that's, like, a good thing. Like, yeah, I don't think everyone is deserving. And I also like am trying to really right now I'm trying to learn the difference between lust and love. Like that's something that's like tripping me out a lot.
Let's
So
talk
that's
about
my
that.
next self journey.
Let's
Like,
talk
what-
about that.
Yeah, maybe you can help me learn more about it. I don't know.
Okay, so
Because I've heard a couple of different opinions on the definitions, and I'm like, whoa, I don't know if I agree with any of these.
I've spent the past year and a half breaking that down and
Yeah.
digesting it in
It's trippy.
ways that it makes you want to shoot yourself in the head. So
Yep.
what do you think is the difference between lust and love?
I feel like lust is like just more of a I feel like lust is kind of like a taste of love. The difference is that is like the time, you know what I mean? Like I feel like lust is like very quick and like it's more of like a sexually driven thing, whereas love is like a full acceptance of another person and it lasts longer, you know what I mean? I feel like lust just is like a fast glimpse of love, kind of. I don't know, I'm still trying to figure it out. That's just like an idea that I have.
Let me ask you a simpler question. What do you think love is? I suppose not a simple question, but
yeah, I feel like okay. Well, I think love and in love are different things, but I think love.
Okay, so we're not talking. Okay, so.
So I don't.
So okay.
I don't know.
When you're talking about, so when you're talking about lust and love, you're not talking about being in love.
No,
I am. Okay, you are talking about.
I am talking about. Yeah, so I am talking about being in love. I feel like being in love is like. You don't see. Like nobody else can compare to that person. I don't know how to describe it. This is really hard.
Do you think you've ever been in love?
I've been in love one time.
You think that you have?
I'm pretty sure I was. Yeah.
Okay. Your first relationship, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which everyone says like their first relationship, blah, 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 but I don't know.
Okay, so
like I still love that person. I don't want to date them anymore, but like I still love them, you know?
Okay. So
I just know why we wouldn't work
you
now.
think that you were in you think that you were in love with him. You still think that you are in love with him.
Yeah.
Okay. That was the how long was that relationship?
It was like a year, but they lived with me for like 8 months.
So he lived with you out of 8 months out of the year.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you dated for 4 months and then he moved in with you?
Yeah, basically.
Okay. And then why did you guys break up?
It wasn't the right time in his life, and he really needed to focus on himself and like.
How long ago was this?
I was 18 to 9. I just turned 18. Yeah, 18 to 19 years old.
Or I guess how old is he now?
He just turned 25.
Oh, so he's 4 years older.
He was 4 years older than me.
Okay,
yeah.
so.
But I feel like I had my life more together than him, and I think part of that bothered him. So, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if that was a thing. He's like, I'm the boyfriend. Like, I should have my own place, and I'm older than her. Like, I should be doing all these things.
There's a lot of insecurity that comes from that.
Yeah, sure. I think that's partially what it is. But.
So there's a combination of things. There's insecurity, immaturity, and
a bunch of
lack
things.
Of
and also, I was too dependent on him. Like, he would leave for a day, and I would start like crying and wouldn't know what to do with myself, and I'd like cut my wrists. Like, that's not good. So, okay. I mean, it needed to happen for me to be who I am now. But
okay. So, does he think? Do you think that he was in love with you?
I don't know.
Did he ever say that he was in love with you?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you ever ask him are you guys friends or no?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you ever ask him that he thinks that he was in love with you?
We did have like a conversation because after we broke up, we like were cordial and then we became friends and then we like kind of were like, should we try this again? And we tried for like a month and we both were like, no, we shouldn't.
How long ago was this?
That was when I was like 19 and a half. I'm like,
oh, okay. So it was shortly after.
It was like shortly after we like tried again. We were like, no, this definitely is not the vibe.
Okay. Now that you think about it, do you think the reasons why you were attracted to him at the time are still there now or no?
Yes, but that's a good question. I feel like I'm in a therapy session. I think they are, but I just know they're not for me. Does that make sense? It's like I want a Kit Kat bar, but like I'm vegan, so I can't eat the Kit Kat bar. You know?
I see what you're saying.
It's kind of like that mentality. But I don't know. Like he'll always be like in the back of my mind type thing. But it's not someone, if he asked me right now, like, do you want to be my girlfriend? I'd be like, no. So it's weird. I don't know. That's why I feel like I could have like really, really been in love with him. But I definitely.
Because you think that there's an attachment.
I think it's just an emotional attachment to like where I was in my life and like that whole experience I had. And he was just with me on all of those experiences. So I think of that, like I associate them together type thing. So it brings me like a nostalgic feeling. But like we're so friends now, and like there's certain things about his personality that I'm just like, this is why we fought. Like now that I'm more self-aware of myself, I'm like, okay, now I understand why it didn't work. And there's just so many reasons that I'm like, okay, like I'm not upset about it anymore. There's no like resentment or like bad blood or anything like that. But I definitely learned like what to look for and what not to look for in a partner now that at this point because of that. But I still don't know the difference between lust and love.
We'll get there.
Like, okay.
Do you romanticize things in your mind?
I do all the time.
Incredibly? Okay.
I think I like the idea of things more than the actual thing. And I think that's also a lot of it was like, I liked him on my arm. Like it was how he looked and also like the aesthetic around everything. And it was like, we were the it thing. So when I lost that, I was like, well, am I going to find somebody as cute as that or as good as that or like in his field that he was working? I was like, is anyone going to be like, am I going to find somebody better than him? And like, I have met people like better suiting for me than him.
Did he hurt you in any way?
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't have to say what it is, but do you you said that there is no resentment because of those things, so I'm assuming you've forgiven him.
Yeah, I think I've forgiven him.
Okay. What is the worst thing that somebody can do in a relationship to you that would end it for you?
Cheating.
Cheating. Okay.
Yeah.
If did he cheat on you?
He didn't cheat on me, but
If he cheated on you, would you still love him?
I think if he had cheated on me, I wouldn't have been with him, but I still would have like loved him. I don't know. I know that's sick, but like I think
Well, it's not sick.
I think I would have.
You think you would have?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know because he didn't cheat on me, but I mean, he did something almost like that where it was close enough to where I was like, it was just the circumstances were not the best for me.
This is how I describe the difference between lust and love.
Okay. Let me know.
I believe that when you are in love with someone, that love is unconditional, which means that it does not matter what the person does, their actions, how they treat you. You will always feel that there's
This,
nobody
like,
else
tethered
that
attachment to them no matter what.
it's not attachment. See, there's a difference.
Okay.
Now that's where it gets tricky.
Okay, I think that's where I get
That's
confused.
where it gets tricky.
Yeah.
Because the attachment comes from different places. Being in love is unconditional to a point where forgiveness is a default. Which means
I like
that
this. Forgiveness really puts it to the test. Like, how much would you let them do to you?
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, when we talk about forgiveness, there is also places that are attached to that, where it's like, how much are you willing to be loyal to someone and allow them to learn from their mistakes and become a better person?
Mm-hmm.
And then are you willing to be a part of that journey with them or not?
Right.
I personally believe that if you are in love with someone, then you cannot imagine your life without them. One way or another, you would be willing to make it work no matter what. Okay. Now, there are circumstances where things can get very tricky. You know, if somebody's physically abusive, if somebody's mentally abusive, right? Are two people meant to be in love and yet somehow one could hurt the other person, right? Because at the end of the day, we're people and we make mistakes. Now,
Right.
I believe that in a situation when somebody makes a mistake, unless they're willing to change, then there's nothing really you can do to help them.
Right. You can lead a horse to water. You can't make him drink.
Yeah.
Right.
So they have to be willing to create, change in their life.
Mm-hmm.
Does that necessarily mean that you have to be a part of their life and be hurt by that person just because of the fact that you're in love with them? Right.
Right.
The two are not the same. Because sometimes if we're being hurt by someone, regardless of whether we're in love with them or not, we would have to walk away in order to stop the pain for ourselves.
Right.
So it's a little bit contradictory in that way.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, hearing that breakdown, I would definitely, going back to questions you asked me before, I would say that I was probably in love with him and he just wasn't in love with me, even if he thought that he was. Because at that point, so what is it if you're in love with somebody, because you said like you'll do anything to make it work no matter what, right? But if they think they love you or think whatever, but they're not actually in love with you, they're not willing to make it work as much as you're willing to make it work, then it's not going to work. You know what I mean? So like you can be in love with someone who's not in love with you, right? Like, that's very possible. Or is that not possible?
Here is my problem that I've been debating for a very long time. And the question I always ask myself is God cruel enough to create dynamics in the world where the connection and chemistry between two people can be a one-way street?
Yeah, that's a hard one to answer, I guess.
I suppose it's impossible to answer, but
yeah, and I mean, in a perfect world, I guess you would think like he wouldn't do that to you, but
because if you believe in soulmates, the existence of soulmates, right? Then wouldn't two people be each other's soulmates? And if that's the case,
yeah,
then how is it possible that the other person cannot love you back?
Okay, so this also now triggers my thought about monogamy, because I am wondering with what you just brought up. I don't even know how to phrase this, but I feel like, because I had the belief too that like you can be in love with somebody, but maybe you're not. You aren't growing in the same way, so
Sure.
It won't work out in the future. But I stopped believing fully in the idea of like only one person is for you. You know what I mean? Like even getting married at this point, I'm like, is there just one person I'm going to be with for the rest of my life? Because I would be totally happy with that. I am somebody who is down for that type of dynamic. But at the same time, I know a lot of other people, even if they want to believe in that, they grow out of people, of things. It doesn't work out. Like things happen. Could be like a place you are in your lives. Like it could be a bunch of different things. But I don't know. And maybe that's a Gen Z thing, but I feel like a lot of people are questioning like the idea of being with one person. Like it just seems like unrealistic. Maybe that's because of the dating culture, how it's like so many people doing so many things, no one settling down type thing in my age group. Maybe that's what it is. But I feel like lack of commitment, all of that stuff. I just feel like, I don't know, it made me start questioning it. So I'm like, will I be with one person the rest of my life? I doubt it. You know what I mean?
Well, so the culture has normalized not only dating around, but also divorce and going from one partner to another and accepting that something ends.
Yeah, it used to be frowned upon. Now it's normal. And then it used to not ever happen at all. And people would be married at 16 and that's it. And that's your life. And there you go.
Well, here's the problem. I think the biggest part of the issue is that people are no longer willing to fight for what they believe in or what they say to each other. You know, words no longer mean anything. Because I would say to you, hey, Jackie, I'm in love with you and I would live, I can't live without you and I want to be with you for the rest of my life. Right? Those words coming out of my mouth mean absolutely nothing.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Like I just like say it.
You just said it.
Right.
Yeah.
And just because
there's no meaning.
I felt like saying it at the time, but in no shape or form I meant anything that I said.
Your actions would show if you did. Yeah.
I'm very different. if I say something to you,
You mean it.
I mean, like, I will not tell you I'm in love with you unless I'm actually in love with you. I will not tell you I want to spend the rest of my life with you if I actually knowingly am thinking to myself, this is the person I want to spend the rest of my life with. Now, here's the tricky part of it is not to say those things when you're actually happy in a relationship, but say those things when you're upset
unhappy.
and angry and
it's
unhappy.
Like finding something to be grateful and the thing that you don't like. When you're fucking pissed at that person, like kissing them and being like, okay, like we got into a fight, but I love you still. Even when you still hate them in that moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always say
be
too, where
angry.
hate comes love. Like I'm physically incapable of hating something that I don't love, because it's like, if I didn't love it, then I would not care at all. You know, if I didn't care, I just wouldn't care.
Yeah.
But if I have these like intense feelings of like hate for someone, it's probably because I love them. You know, I only get like that with a few people. Otherwise, it just kind of like whatever.
I think that the concept of monogamy, it goes in so many different directions, because certain people are okay with certain things. You know, whether let's say if a girl is bi and they would want to have sex with, like, you know, other women, or
Right. Everyone's relationship is unique to their whatever. Yeah.
Or two people are swingers, or, you know, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
I think those conversations are very specific to the partners that you end up being with.
Right. I agree.
Whether or not love can be found in multiple different people, I'm having a hard time accepting that as those people actually unconditionally loving one another. And I think that's why most of these relationships end, is because that finding that love that is unconditional is so rare.
Right.
Which is why you hear, every once in a while, you would hear about, you know, two people, your grandparents or like somebody else's grandparents, being together for like 60 years, 70 years.
Right.
Right.
It's like they met in middle school and is history.
Because it's just, I mean, but things like that, I don't think happen that often.
They don't happen that often. I've seen it like once maybe.
Which tells me that the rarity of finding your soulmate is something that not very many people experience.
Right.
You know, I put it in the same places, like,
I like that.
It is, I think, is more likely to win the lottery than it is to finding your soulmate. And I've talked to multiple people about the subject, where they're like, well, no, you could fall in love with like multiple people. I was with my ex, who I thought you know, was my soulmate, and then I found this new person.
And you're like, yeah, but do you love them now? Were you in love with them? Because it obviously wasn't unconditional. So that's where your unconditional thing comes in. I like that, where there's this game called We're Not Really Strangers, and it's like a card game, but it makes you like get deep. There's 3 different levels. It's like connection, reflection, and like something else. But they just ask deep questions. So it's like a 2-person game. And one of the questions was, if you could describe love in one word, what is it? And like me and my friends all went around and we said one word. But I think I said unconditional at the time. I was like unconditional, because it's like never ending type thing. So that's like a good word.
I mean, unconditional is like you're willing to do whatever it takes for the person.
Yeah,
you know?
Unconditional has literally no limits to it.
And I make it actually easy for people. The question I always ask myself is, am I willing to give up my life for this other person? You know, a bullet is coming to you right now. Am I willing to step in front of that?
Yeah.
You know, and literally knowing that I'm going to die, or you know, or you're actually, this is actually a lot better. Mm-hmm. If they said your ex is losing his life, and the only way that we could help him is to take away your vocal cords and give it to him, and that's the only way he'll survive.
Holy shit.
Would you do it? Now that is unconditional love.
That is unconditional love.
If the answer to that question is yes, and now you could ask
but
somebody,
like,
and
I
they
don't
say,
even know if I would. I'm so sorry, Mom. I love you. And Dad, I love you too. I don't know if I would do it for either of them.
Well, that doesn't necessarily
I'm like-
mean that you unconditionally should love your parents. I mean, that's not.
That's true. But I feel like I do. See, but that really just is the question. That is a good question to ask me. Like, would I get rid of these? I don't know. That'd be really hard.
Because that gets real.
I mean, forget the singing. I talk a lot.
You know, it's giving up things, because some people say it like, are you willing to die? Okay, yes. You know, and
Yeah,
like
whatever.
so you say it because you know you're not going to die.
Right.
But then, you know, push comes to shove.
But something realistic that it's like, oh, actually, you couldn't.
Are you willing to
Yeah.
give something up that is going to, you know, change, alter
I think
your
at the
being?
time when I was with him, I would have, but now I would not. Yeah, I don't. The love wasn't. Well, I feel like, but okay, so can the love feel unconditional in the moment and just not be then? That's
Yes,
probably
because
what it is
at that time,
most of the time.
Yeah, because at that time you're thinking to yourself, "Oh my God, this person I cannot live without."
Yeah, but then this just makes me feel more discouraged. Like I'm never gonna find someone who I unconditionally love that much. You know what I mean?
It's
I'm like,
possible
unless
we
it just
don't.
slaps me in the face. I don't know.
You know,
But
it's really possible.
please don't slap me in the face, future lover. I'm like,
It all depends where you are.
yeah, right. I know.
I think that most people don't, and most people find somebody who is a partner, you know, who they end up loving, but that's what that is. It's just love. It's not being in love, but it's like lust, right?
Right.
And you learn to adapt to the person. You learn to be with someone because nobody wants to end up alone.
Right.
And so that's how they that's how they think, is that, okay, well, am I going to keep searching? Because then how long are you going to search?
Yeah, I've had people who are like older, been like with someone, and they'll tell me privately, probably like a guy, but he'd be like, I am like turning 30, whatever, and I really do like this girl that I'm with, but I'm at the age where it's like, okay, I'm either going to propose to her and like this is the girl for it, like the rest of my life, or like I don't have any time to find anybody else. So, but that's just like, why would you say that? Because then it's like you're settling, you know what I mean?
For sure.
And you just said it out loud, but you're still willing to do you're still willing to settle because you're scared of like not finding somebody. Like, yeah, that is a crazy concept too. I don't know. Would you settle? No. You'd rather be alone than have someone that wasn't the real deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
Because because I'm a very giving person, but aside from that, I'm very loyal, and I don't think I'm ever going to be willing to be with someone knowing that there's a possibility of them hurting me.
I think that's what's scary too for me in relationships is like, I was watching a Miley Cyrus interview, and it's a lyric in one of her songs in her album. I love her new album. It says, I find myself a giver because I'm a taker, or something like that. And she's like, like I know my role in the relationship. Like I'm a taker. I'm very busy. Like that's what she likes. For me, I feel like I'm a giver. Like what you were saying. Like I'm constantly like always thinking about them and always trying to make their day good. Like I just like taking care of them, like my loved one. That's like my love language, I guess, is like acts of service. Like I like expressing my love for someone by doing things for them. And when I don't get that reciprocated, it's like, I don't know, it freaks me out.
And that's also another part of it, is when you are unconditionally
like,
in love with someone,
yeah,
then giving does
not
not
a question.
require giving does not
it.
require reciprocation,
right.
where, you know, and again, these conversations are very specific to the title of what we're talking about, because, you know, the mature relationship will have reciprocation in it, you know. So I just want to be very specific to our audience that this is not, this is very specific to what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Damn, we're like an hour 20 minutes now, which is crazy. Yeah.
Okay.
Because the time went by so quick.
Sorry, guys.
I first of all, I
let's just
love
keep
having
talking.
these conversations with you, because you're mature enough to understand it, but also willing enough to
These are my favorite conversations.
Yeah, to like talk about. And I have like so many other things I actually wanted to talk to you about too.
We could do it.
We'll do another episode.
Yeah, we can do another episode. I'll come back.
It's been great.
Yeah.
You're fantastic. Thank you.
Yay.
I appreciate it.
Well, you just got me talking. I'm like, okay.
I know you're like I was like thinking to myself, because I haven't talked to you in a while
tangents.
too.
Yeah.
And then I was like thinking to myself, I've known you for years. How long has it been?
It's been years.
Yeah, it's been a few years.
It's been at least like 3, I feel like.
4 years.
Maybe 4, yeah.
Maybe
March. 4.
March is going to be 4 years, yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. Oh my God, you made me such a little kid. Now I can have adult conversations.
I know, which is crazy. I feel like you've come such a long way. Like,
yeah.
But I still remember the first day I met you. Do you remember? I don't think you do.
I don't know.
You were with Claire.
Oh.
That's who I met you with.
Oh my God. Yeah. Okay, I remember that. Ugh, there was another, like, I think that was like after I had gone out like a couple times with Claire, and then I finally we met, or she introduced me to you. Uh-huh. But there was this other like guy promoter, worst experience ever of my life. My first time at the club was like traumatizing with him.
No way.
It was awful. I don't even know if I should say his name or if it matters. Honestly, fuck him. I kind of want to say his name.
Say it.
His name is Chad. Do you know?
Oh my God.
Chad almost raped me.
No way.
Like actually. And like fully knew my age and everything, and like I was I think 16, 17. Ooh. And I like so drunk at the club that he got me into. And I like lost my jacket, which was like a $200 custom like stitched jacket that I was like so excited about. I just got it. I lost it. I think someone stole it or something. So I'm asking the bar, like, have you guys seen a jacket? Like whatever. Claire is like, ask Chad like if he's seen it. I'm like, okay. So I go over, and he's doing some crazy shit that whole night anyways. But he's like, let's go downstairs. Like, maybe it's downstairs in the Lost and Found or something. I'm like, okay, cool. So we go downstairs. And then he's like, I need to grab something from my car really fast. Will you just come with me? And I'm like alone. I'm like, well, I'm not going to like walk back up by myself, like whatever. And I like walked with him. He like pushes me in the car.
Oh my God.
Whips it out. Starts pulling up my dress. I'm saying no the whole time. And like finally I literally just had to shove him and be like, can you please like not, like I'm not, ew, like no. And yeah, it was very traumatizing.
What the fuck?
That was my first experience going out to the club.
Oh wow.
It was
chill.
Oh my God. It's okay, guys. Everything's fine. I'm safe. We're good.
Wow.
You can bleep out his name if you want to. That was a very specific story.
I don't think I'm going to, just because of that. Because
okay,
I
don't care.
Stories
like,
that type of stories get a little bit tricky because like somebody would say, okay, so like somebody could like exaggerate and say, okay, like, you know, I was at the club, I was drunk, he was drunk, and then he like came on me and like grabbed my ass or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Not cool, not chill. But then what you said is
he
like very
literally
specific.
Led me down to the car. But
yeah,
this is like my first time going out, and I was just with Claire and our friend Chloe, and like it was just us two. Like we were all in, I mean, sorry government. We were all in high school, and like
sorry government.
I don't know. We were all in high school, like we're going out, and this is my first time. Like I'm so excited, and like we're drunk. Like do you remember being 17, like getting drunk for your first couple times? Like you don't know what the fuck is happening. Exactly, that's the point. You don't remember. That's the. Oh wait, you actually haven't. I don't remember because it never happened. You never drank. Oh my God, I totally forgot until just now. Wait, you're right. But yeah. Anyways, it's all a blur, is what I'm saying. So. Yeah, it's just
no. That's messed up. I'm gonna leave it in there just because.
Do it.
You know, you're not the
it's
first
just
person.
Honest. I'm not.
You're not the first person who said something.
Okay.
I've had multiple people say like, yeah, he's like done this. He's grabbed my ass. Like he's done this. He's done that.
Yeah, I mean, my friend that we were there with, like, we went back and she was like, did he like try to finger you on the dance floor too? And I was like,
oh my God.
Yeah, would literally like be dancing behind us and like would just put his hand down and up, and I was like. What is going on? Like, I just lost my virginity like a month ago. What are you doing to me? Like, I don't know what's happening. I'm like, don't.
Jesus
yeah,
Christ.
like it's just crazy.
That is insane.
Yeah, but it's okay. We're alive and well.
Wow. Jesus, I don't understand.
I
like,
know.
what the fuck?
Yeah. And it's funny because like I've met some assholes at the club, but like no, I've never had an experience like that ever again, like in my life, like that crazy. And yeah, I mean, I'm blessed that like nothing else happened. But yeah, I just remember
Crazy.
being super weirded out after. We were like in the Uber on our way home, and I was like, I don't know what to do right now. Like, that was kind of traumatic. Yeah.
That's just.
Yeah, I'm smiling and laughing because I'm so uncomfortable right now. Just so
It
everybody
is
knows.
very
I'm
uncomfortable.
Like,
I think that's like, and it's interesting though. I was talking to, last week I was shooting an episode and was talking to this girl who, the subject was brought up, and it's crazy how so many women experience these things, in different shapes and forms.
Right.
Smaller ways of like just being
Worse.
groped, or like
Yeah.
worse of like actually being raped. And I don't understand the male perspective on this. I find it so appalling and just disgusting.
Yeah.
In so many shapes and forms. If
it's not a yes, it's a no.
My
That's how.
mom was a very big factor of like how I was raised, and she was constantly teaching me like, respect women and like, be nice, like even to
Yeah.
the extent of like walking. I would like be walking, going somewhere, and she'd be like, why are you walking in front of me? Like, come walk next to me. Like, never
Right.
walk in front of your partner. Even to that extent.
Yeah. No, I love that. It's like
And-
the little things.
And it like, first it created a certain dynamic in my demeanor in general, because now I'm very I don't want to say standoffish, because that's not the word, but like reserved when it comes to women. Like, I never make the first move
You don't want to like come off
unless it's like very obvious.
Right.
Unless like the girl is like literally saying, hey, like I'm attracted to you, and like, I want to
Yeah.
hang out, or like, I think you're hot, or like, those
Yeah.
sort of
right,
words.
like an obvious sign, right?
Yeah. But if it's subtle and like I don't know for sure,
Yeah, you won't act on it.
I don't act on it, which
Yeah.
sometimes could come off as like, oh, why isn't this guy taking charge, or like, you know what I mean?
Right.
So it gets a little bit confusing as a guy to like, where is
feel-
the line?
Yeah, because
to-
a girl wants the guy to like make the decisions and like come get them and like
Yeah,
pay for them
exactly.
and open the door and like all these things. But then also if you're like, I don't know, the same girl who wants to be respected by men is the one who's like, choke me, daddy. So it's like, well, what the fuck?
Exactly,
So it's like,
yeah.
what do you want to be
and
respected by men?
that's the crazy part is like, I have a very dominant personality as it is.
Yeah.
And so, and sexually, I'm, that comes out.
Right.
But then, but I can't, but I don't want to like disrespect anyone.
Right.
So and that's why it also makes it very hard for me to like have like one night stands are just like not a thing for me.
Not a thing. Yeah.
I it makes me very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because I don't know the person.
Yeah, me too.
You know?
I agree. I had to stop all that shit. I think I had like my phase when I was younger and I'm so over it now. Like it's not appealing to me at all. I'm like, that's not even fun. Like, ugh. You're like
Yeah.
the whole time you're trying to learn the person and then it's over and you're like, oh, I hope that was okay.
Yeah, and also my giving nature like makes me want to know about the person before. Like I want to be able to like satisfy the person.
Right.
And so it makes me feel
Going back
like,
to the giver, not a taker.
yeah, make me feel like, okay, if I don't know you, then how can I satisfy you?
Right.
You know?
I agree. Also, personality makes me so much more attracted to people than like physical looks now too. Like I've like I'm not going to say fallen in love, but I've gotten crushes and like been attracted to people who I didn't find physically attractive because their personality was so cool. And like, I just fell in love with them that I didn't, or, I like the idea of them, not, how they looked. And then I've had guys who I've had one night stands with who are so attractive and they're like, there's nothing going on up there. Like literally nothing. It's like I'm talking to this teddy bear and it's just not fun. I had to like stop in the middle and be like, I'm not into this. Sorry. Like, I don't know. It's just I really have to like you, even if it's not like a relationship, even to just be hooking up with you. Like, I need to like you a little bit.
No,
like,
for sure. 100%.
The chemistry just makes it so much better anyways, you know?
Yeah. It's interesting because I've that's happened multiple times where
You have to stop in the middle and be like, ah.
Well, not just that. Like I would be talking to a girl and she'd be like super attractive, and I'd be with like a friend or something, and then and I just like end up like walking away.
You're like, this conversation's boring.
And he'd be like, yo, what's going, like, she was like so into you, or like she was like making it obvious. I was like, yeah, but like I couldn't hold a conversation. Like, I didn't understand a word she was saying. Like, wait, what do you want me to do?
It's so funny. Yeah, personality is key, honestly. Yeah.
I'm loving this. You're awesome.
Me too.
Thank
I'm
you.
like, we could film it now and just cut it into 2 episodes. This shit is so funny.
Do you want to, if you have time? I mean, I don't have a problem.
I'm not doing anything today.
All right, sure.
I have a session later tonight at like 8 p.m. But nothing.
Cool.
Yeah. Unless it works better for you to do 2 separate ones.
Well, it all depends on space, actually. Because we might have to, because I don't think I have enough space on that one to shoot the whole thing.
Okay, that's fine.
So we'll do another one, and also I could sort of regroup on these questions that I want to ask you, because then talking to you made me want to get into so much more deep stuff.
I know. Honestly, and like this, just to leave it on this, because I know there's not that much space, but I really enjoy doing things where I get to really speak about my mind and stuff like that more, because I feel like, especially my brand and like my Instagram, like I'm a very confident person with like my body and stuff like that. So people probably see my Instagram and they have a way different perception of like my personality and who I am based off of like the images they see online. But like, I am a crazy bitch, but like I'm not actually like that. I don't know. I think I have a hard time accepting that other people have this perception of me, just because even close friends of mine were like, when I first met you, like I was scared. And I was like, why? And they were like, because you see, like, you're just on Instagram, you're like this, and like you just seemed like unapproachable type thing. And then I met you and the first words out of your mouth were like so happy and loving, and you're like this like upbeat person there. Like, I did not get that from your Instagram. And I'm like, oh, that's like upsetting. And then, or vice versa with guys, they'll be like, oh, I just assumed you were like down or like whatever. And I'm like, why? Because I posted a bikini picture. Like, how many other girls post bikini pictures? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just like, yeah, it's hard to deal with that. So I appreciate having platforms like this to be able to actually have conversations that allow me to speak my mind more.
We'll do another one.
So yeah,
for sure.
I'm happy to be
100%.
here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You've been great. Thank you so much for coming.
Of course. Unattainable, guys.
You know
I
what?
love it. I'm unattainable, just so you guys know.
Just because you said that, we'll end it right there.
Okay.